Americans love scenery. We want to see it all, from one coast to the next, Mount Rushmore down to the Everglades. So hop into a Chevy Malibu and take the scenic route. It's the car you knew America could build. There's a place where people count on friendships they can trace back generations, where they can count on the same stool at the coffee shop waiting for them every morning. This place is called Glen Ellen, and you can find it in every bottle of Glen Ellen wine. This is craft brewed Herman Joseph's, the smoothest, easiest drinking specialty beer in the entire solar system. And I believe you'll find drinkable in the dictionary right after don't order a beer you can't drink. Zoingo! Boingo! The freestyle pogo with more boing, more bounce. Bounce further, bounce higher with Zoingo Boingo. To see what makes Arrowhead Mountain Spring water different from those other waters, you have to go back to the source. And with Arrowhead, that means going back a little farther and longer than most. Between security challenged and security strengthened, there's one important word: how. And it is the how that makes all the difference to our nation and our world. Lockheed Martin. We never forget who we're working for. What makes Kraft Singles so good? 2 out of every 3 kids don't get the recommended amount of calcium. But with Kraft Singles, they get a good source of calcium and the taste they love. Kraft Singles. Magic every single time. Throw boring overboard with a new real meal from Long John Silver's. A meal worthy of a plate, just $4.99. Only at Long John Silver's. We may not all be geniuses, but we can all do something smart. Introducing the Hyundai 199 Sonata Lease. It's a smart deal on a really smart car.
Issue today. This is kind of interesting. According to a poll of the Los Angeles Times, 56% of the Americans polled were opposed to Reagan's plan to sell AWACS. Now, what's the official name for that? Air warning, radar surveillance planes, very sophisticated technical equipment. What is it?
Distant early warning.
Distance early warning. Well, that doesn't make up AWAC, does it? Radar
surveillance.
No, that spells mother. Anyway, they're very... Thank you, staff. Anyway, they're very sophisticated radar, distance warning, early system planes, radar things. What was the point of this? They took
a poll.
What?
The poll.
That's right. No, they're selling them to the Saudis, not the Poles. Took a poll. 56% of the Americans were against.
I'd forgotten the number.
What?
I'd forgotten the number.
I'm telling you, 56% were opposed to selling those planes. I'm going to take my own poll.
Right.
How many people are opposed? How many are for selling the planes? All hands. How many are against selling them? How many would prefer we use the money for technology to grow a vegetable that would be considered ketchup? I'm sorry I got into that. Distance warning. Hey, there's an A in there. AWACS. Air. Now, what's the W for?
The reason why I said that was I used to fly.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
For our side?
Good morning. It's Monday, Moral Monday, September the 8th, and this is The True Conservative. Welcome to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there. I'm Ron, your host, and the only true conservative in the United States today. So today, after the Serenity Prayer and the patriotic song of the day, we will have motivation, meditation, and moral politics. All that and more when I get back. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I should not change, the courage to change the things I should, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. Thank you. And now, Dr. Berg.
Hey, it's Dr. Berg here. In this video, we're going to talk about how to raise testosterone in men, okay? So The aging process alone lowers testosterone. By the time you hit 40, testosterone is on its way down. It's peaked at 18 years old, okay? So, and then what happens, a lot of people start taking bioidentical hormones. The problem with taking bioidentical hormones is that it inactivates your own testicle and adrenals that are supposed to make it, okay? So we end up creating a problem with a shrinking testicle and an adrenal that becomes inactivated if you take it too long. The symptoms for low testosterone would be prostate enlargement. Now, sometimes people will have this confusion and say that, well, I thought testosterone causes a prostate enlargement. And they're talking about a powerful form of testosterone called DHT. Well, first of all, if testosterone causes a prostate enlargement, then as you get older and men have more incidence of prostate enlargement, then that does not correlate with the aging process that lowers testosterone. So really what happens is the lower testosterone that makes the estrogen become more. So it's the estrogen dominance in a male body that creates the enlargement of the prostate. In fact, certain doctors use DHT to shrink the prostate. So more testosterone will make the prostate healthier and protect the prostate against the estrogen. Decreased libido, erectile dysfunction. We talked about the shrinking testes. Muscle loss. It's hard to get muscle tone. You're working out, you can't get the toning the muscles. You start losing collagen. Things start hanging from your body like breast tissue and the skin and collagen. Loss of vitality, loss of body hair, even in your lower part of your legs. Man boobs, higher voice. Other than that, you have nothing to worry about, right? Okay, what causes this problem? Number one, too much estrogen. It's in the meats, it's in the dairy products, it's in the food. GMO food, that's why you have to do organic, hormone-free. It's even in the water supply. There's estrogen if you do tap water. So that's why you have to get a filter and only drink filtered water. And most filters will get rid of the estrogen. But yeah, it's in the water supply. Having liver be damaged. If you have a fatty liver, you're going to produce more estrogen, and that's going to lower testosterone, unfortunately. If you drink alcohol, that's very estrogenic. That's going to make the estrogen go up and the testosterone go down. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. High insulin. Insulin from sugar, like grazing at night, snacking too much. Like by the time you have dinner and you keep eating from that point while you're sitting there watching TV, it's going to spike insulin and it's going to lower testosterone. So you want to do 3 meals a day and that's it. Maybe even 2 meals a day. Low-fat diets. That'll do it. Medications, statins, high blood pressure medications, diabetic medications. Those are the 3 that really mess with this hormone. And this other thing called high aromatase. That's an enzyme in your body that's made by the adrenals. It's also made by the testes that converts your testosterone to estrogen. So here you are trying to salvage that last bit of testosterone you have, and this darn enzyme is converting it to estrogen, and the body's becoming more feminized. Well, there's a couple things that you can do to correct that. Number one, this remedy called stinging nettle root. It's a aromatase inhibitor, okay? Zinc is an aromatase inhibitor. You can take those to decrease this process happening in your liver and your body. So those are 2 good remedies that you can get from the health food store. The other thing is to increase growth hormone. Growth hormone is the anti-aging hormone. Growth hormone is made by the pituitary and it works through your liver. Wherever growth hormone goes, testosterone follows. So there's several things that will increase growth hormone. Eating a moderate, not high amount of protein with each meal. Sleep, getting enough sleep, lowering stress, which will enhance the sleep. Intense full body and exercise. That will spike growth hormone, spike testosterone. Deadlifts are the best workout to increase testosterone because you're using the upper body and lower body, but you have to get your form down and work up very gradually or you could hurt your back. Intermittent fasting, okay? That will also correct the insulin right here. So not eating so frequent will help this as well. That's interesting. The whole thing is, it's like, I don't know who came up with this idea. We have to have 3 meals a day or 6 meals a day. You gotta want to eat when you're hungry. If you eat the right things, you're going to be more satisfied. You'll work off your own fat, and you'll need to eat less. But you never want to eat if you're not hungry. Okay, anti-estrogenic foods. That would be cruciferous, okay? Kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage. Very, very important to clean out the estrogen, because it could be the estrogen that's holding down your testosterone. If you want something to enhance that, I have a product called Whole Cruciferous Food. It has all the cruciferous. You take about 6 of these, 3 to 6 a day, and that will help you to enhance these cruciferous foods. And then you want to decrease cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone from the adrenals. And that is kind of dependent on how much sleep that you get, but also sun. I had this guy. He had this pot belly. And all you have to do is go to Florida for 1 week in the sun, and it just comes right down. It's amazing. So a good amount of sun lowers cortisol. That will help shrink the belly as well. So that's another remedy. Yes, you can do vitamin D in the winter, but if you can get some sun, that would help lowering cortisol. Okay? So these are just some tips to help you enhance this hormone. So put your comments below. Thanks for watching.
And that was Dr. Berg. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, Victor Davis Hanson.
So let me just flip the question the other way, Gavin and Jerry Brown and Nancy Pelosi. What did you think was going to happen when over the last 25 years you let in 10 million people into California that were undocumented? Where were they going to live? Where were they going to get medical care? Where were they going to go to school? How was it going to affect other people? How were they going to drive when they didn't know anything about American traffic law? Where were they going to get a And did any of that affect you? And the answer is no, it didn't affect you. Yeah. It affected other people, poor people, middle-class people. So that's why you did it. You felt good about it, but you never lived among the people you so-called championed. And that's the problem. It swarms a system.
Victor Davis Hanson delivers a blunt, unfiltered critique of California's political leadership and the cultural fallout of decades of unchecked illegal immigration, elite detachment, and progressive double standards. Hanson argues that policymakers like Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, and Nancy Pelosi embraced open border policies without living among or bearing the burdens faced by the working and middle class. Overcrowded schools, strained healthcare, overwhelmed law enforcement, and eroded civic norms. He paints a vivid picture of cultural friction, from littered parking lots to backlogged medical appointments, as symptoms of a system swamped by political self-interest. The message is clear. When leadership ignores the daily realities of its citizens, frustration turns into cultural rebellion.
50% of Californians don't pay income tax, state income tax. 1% pays 50% of all tax revenue, 1% of the households. 5% pay about 65 to 70%. So when you go into these communities, there's also a mindset. It has nothing to do with your ethnic background, but if you go into a country and the first thing you do is break the law knowingly by crossing that border without permission, and the second thing you do is you stay there without permission, the third thing you're likely to do is to try to justify that with some fraudulent form of ID, then that policy changes. I can tell you, whether you like this sounds illiberal or not, I can tell you that if I go into a major shopping center in my area at 6 a.m, you should see the parking lot. It's just covered with trash and litter, and people come in. And these are not U.S. citizens that do it, because they are inculcated with a different. When I go to when I see people, they always take their shopping cart and they put back. But people who just come across the border, maybe they're too impoverished, but their attitude is, I haven't been acculturated to your customs and traditions, but I do know the ones that I came from. And so if I'm going to leave trash in yesterday I went in I had to go through 5 shopping carts, Jack, before I could find one that didn't have trash in it. And these are not the ones out in the park. These are the ones that they brought back in. They either had newspaper, bargains or tissues or hand wipes in the shopping cart. And every time, it's just everywhere. And when you're living there, and the people that I work with who are in Tony Palo Alto have no idea what it's like. And when they go to a doctor, they don't wait. They don't go from 15 minutes to 3 minutes. So as I said, I've gone to about 2 specialists, and it takes months in this area to get a doctor. And when you see them, it's like, I've got to type on this, Victor, so we got to go really quickly. What did you have any of this? When's the last time you came in here? I can't remember. Okay, got any problems? See ya. That's what it is. And it never used to be that way. Never used to be that way. So it affects people in hundreds of different ways. If you look in law enforcement, what do you do when you pull over someone? You write a ticket. What if you write a ticket and the person is going to run, or he's never going to show up, or he's never going to pay? And what do? You tow the car? Then what do you do with the guy? You just leave him on the side of the road. There's just a myriad of problems happen when you flood the zone with people here illegally. And when you have a country like Mexico who deliberately exports people for the $63 billion in remittances they send home, then you've got a force multiplier of effect. Mexico deliberately tries to destroy the border. What Mr. Obrador used to say, it's a beautiful thing that we sent 40 million people into the United States. That's what he said. People are getting tired of lectured. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't drink this, you can't do that. Especially when you add in the force multiplying effect of hypocrisy. So it's a kind of a counter-revolution that's cultural. I guess these young men are saying, you know what? I go to college, I see these very attractive women, and they dress in a way that no one ever dressed in the 1950s, even 60s or 70s. Their midriffs are showing, they're skin tight. This is fine, we all love it. We go to the beach, there's string bikinis. But I do know that if I get into a physical relationship with this person and mutually it falls apart, we just don't want to see each other, but one person is the predominant person wants to break it off, me, male, that person will have a complaint against me. And one of the complaints will be that I was sexually harassing or I sexually assault, and I don't want to get involved anymore. So there's all these articles now from feminists, men don't want to date. No, they're not. They just know that that when they go out on a college campus or anywhere and they date a woman and they get involved with a woman and it doesn't work out, the person who feels aggrieved, and probably because of their caddish behavior. In the old days, we'd say, he's a cad. He was cruel. He's a player. Just forget about him. But today it becomes a criminal matter. So that's one thing. The other thing is they don't want to go to campus and see the president of Sac State say that he wants to destroy whiteness. They're sick of that. They work, they go there, they have $50,000 in student loans. They're not eligible for minority scholarships. They're working at Home Depot or, Olive Garden. They come to school, they take their units, they go back to work, and then they hear that the president says that they're privileged and he wants to destroy them, basically, because their whiteness in his mind. They're sick of that. They're sick of that. They see some guy who's a guy like them, and he's got suddenly long hair, and he's got huge shoulders and muscles, and suddenly he's winning the track and swimming, and they say to somebody, that guy's a male, and he shouldn't be anywhere near women. If I did that, and they said, oh, no, you're illiberal, you can't say that. And so, they drive up in their pickup and they say, oh, what do you get to the gallon to that? That's just a gas hog you're taking. And they say, well, I just, look at San Jose. It's full of thousands of San Jose airports, thousands of private Gulfstreams. Who are those people? So they're sick of being lectured to about race and gender and political correctness and New Green Deal.
If you enjoyed today's video...
And that was Victor Davis Hanson. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of Machiavellianism.
The Machiavellians, as you pointed out, Machiavelli was an advisor to princes who was really interested in some sense in the outright maintenance of instrumental power. I wouldn't say he was driven by any intrinsic ethic. It was Machiavelli gave advices to princes who wanted to maintain their position by hook or by crook, let's say. So Machiavellians are willing to use manipulation to obtain their personal ends. And narcissists seem to be driven by a high desire to obtain unearned status from others. So the Machiavellians, as you pointed out,
And that was a little bit about Machiavelli. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, a little bit of motivation.
The longest time in the world is the hesitation between thought and action. It can actually be forever. You can hesitate for 1 second to get started on something. A workout, a project, a task, something that you know you should do. You can hesitate for 1 second. That 1 second of hesitation, all of a sudden it turns into 5 seconds, and then 10 seconds, and then 10 minutes. And then just like that, you drifted into the eternity zone. 1 second became an eternity because something that was going to happen is now never going to happen, ever. Why is that? Because you hesitated. So don't take that chance. Instead, take action. A body in motion tends to stay in motion. A body at rest tends to stay at rest. You've had enough damn rest.
You've got to get to the point in your life where you decide, I have had it. I'm tired of being a loser.
I got tired of losing. I got tired of coming up short. I got tired. I want to move to the nicest neighborhood. I want to fly first class. I want to go to Hawaii. I made a decision. Enough is enough. It's showtime. In order for you to go from one level to the next level, in order for any woman to transition, for any man to transition, the thing that they want must be greater than the thing they currently have. Humans do not transition to another level when they're comfortable with the level that they're on. You only go to another level when you say, enough is enough. I want you to live the life you were meant to live. You hear me? Not the life that was given to you. You deserve to see what your life would look like if you gave 120%. And what I need you to do is I need you to look at yourself in the mirror and say, come on, stop playing. I deserve to see what my life would look like if I gave 120%. That's lion mode. And you got to get to a place where you start executing.
Making a freaking plan is the easy part. And you have to understand, if you don't execute on the plan, if you don't get up in the morning when you're feeling tired, scared, if you don't execute, you're not just cheating yourself, dude. You're cheating your family. You're cheating your employees. You're cheating your team. Whatever you're a part of, it's bigger than you, man.
And guess what? I had to get up even though it was hard. And I had to take ownership of my life. Take ownership of my time. Take ownership of my day. And if those of you messed up, why? Because you don't understand. Think, act, eat, rest. We're talking about a schedule. I realized that my strength is in my routine. Why? Because I'm not as strong as I thought I was. I'm not as intelligent as I thought I was. It's in my routine. It's what I do every day repeatedly. The DNA of your success is in your routine. You're not as deep as you think you are. You got to find a routine. I'm getting up at 3 and stick with it. I'm getting up at 5 and stick with it. Yeah, out of 365 days, we'll have a bad day or two. But I'm trying to tell you, the strength is in the routine. Find a routine and stick with it. No more dreaming. Dreaming is over. I need specifics. What are you doing on Monday? What are you doing on Tuesday? What are you doing on Wednesday? You need to be very specific. It's time to put your pieces together of your puzzle. Nobody gave me this. I earned it. Life wasn't a crystal stair for me. Didn't nobody is real, but the lifestyle is realer. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Stay predictable. Stay consistent. And the reason why many of you are not getting it is because you're not consistent. You start and you stop. You get pumped up. You start strong, and then somewhere in the middle you quit. You have a little success, but you don't experience exponential growth because you're not consistent. You gotta be persistent. You gotta be locked in. You can't scoreboard watch. Too many of you scoreboard watching. Every time you do something, you're looking up to see the score. You stopping working to look at yourself. You're not grinding. You glaring. You should be grinding and you looking at the score. The score is what it is. The score ain't about to change because you looked at it. Keep playing the game. Keep grinding. Keep working. And that other stuff will take care of itself. I'm challenging you to get from where you are. I'm challenging you to stop settling. I'm challenging you to stop accepting the life that was given to you. And I'm challenging you to give 120%. If you're going to do what you say you're going to do, be what you say you're going to be, you're going to have to lion me out. You a gazelle, you're going to come up short. You a gazelle, you're not always going to get what you want out of life. You a gazelle, you're going to have an average experience. You a student, I need you in lion mode. You a teacher, I need you in lion mode. You an entrepreneur, I need you in lion mode. You trying to lose weight, lion mode. You can't do nothing significant in gazelle mode. Nothing. Nothing impressive happens in gazelle mode. Nothing happens in run mode, give up mode, quit mode, scared mode, fearful mode. Nothing happens. Everything happens in lion mode like I'm coming to get you. You concentrate on this opportunity. You don't worry about tomorrow. You concentrate on this opportunity with all your might, with all your soul, with all your heart. You focus on this, and tomorrow will take care of itself.
And that was a little bit of motivation. Back in a minute. Thank you. And now, a little bit of meditation.
Welcome to this 5-minute meditation with powerful night affirmations to manifest wealth while you sleep. Take a deep breath in and slowly let it go. Feel your body sinking into the bed, heavy and relaxed. With every breath, release the stress of today. This is your time to rest, to receive, and to align with abundance. As you drift closer to sleep, your mind becomes calm, open, and ready. In this peaceful state, you allow the energy of wealth and blessings to flow freely into your life. You do not chase. Life effortlessly brings your desires to you. Repeat these truths within. I am a limitless being, open to infinite abundance. I am a magnet for wealth and prosperity. My life is a stream of success and overflowing blessings. There is always more than enough wealth for me. I receive more than I can dream of. My income is always growing. I trust that all my needs are met with ease. Divine blessings are unlimited, and I welcome them fully. Life is miraculous, and everything in my world is working out perfectly. Right now, endless wealth flows to me in divine ways. I am connected to the infinite current of abundance. God is the source of wealth, and I receive more than I ask for. Prosperity comes to me in rightful and immediate ways. Unexpected doors open and divine wealth flows into my life. I spend money wisely, knowing I am always connected to an endless source. I am grateful for the unlimited riches that are mine now. With gratitude in your heart, let these affirmations settle deep into your subconscious. Trust that as you sleep, abundance is manifesting for you. You are safe, supported, and divinely provided for. Now allow yourself to drift into a peaceful, wealthy, and restful sleep. Good night. See you in the next meditation.
And that was a little bit of meditation. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, the Dark Triad.
In psychology, the Dark Triad represents 3 personality traits: narcissism, psychopathy, and Machiavellianism. If we were to ask the 3 who has the darkest personality, the narcissist would say, me. The psychopath would say, I don't care. And the Machiavellian would say, it's whoever I want it to be. People scoring high on the 3 traits are more likely to commit crimes and create severe social problems in society, families, and organizations. This is why the research on the Dark Triad is used widely in law enforcement, psychology, and business. Here is an overview of what we know. The narcissist displays grandiosity, entitlement, and superiority, and wants nothing more than admiration. Once he gets what he wants, the narcissist is rarely interested in other people. When he does care, it's to enhance his status, which is why he likes to mingle with successful others. They seem as though they're completely in love with themselves, but at the root of their inflated egos are often deeply held feelings of inferiority. To protect their constructed self, they can never admit to being wrong, which is why they lie or blame others. Machiavellians are unprincipled, cold, and have a cynical view of other human beings. They like money, power, and winning, and they use manipulation to get what they want or exploit others. If manipulation doesn't work, they steal or betray. Those high on the spectrum believe it's better to be feared than being liked, and offend others as a strategy to control them. When you are a psychopath, you come across as cold, and others think you are scary. You also show little to no fear, act impulsively, and you enjoy mental thrills. Those high on the spectrum don't form any emotional bonds. The result is a complete lack of compassion. That means they have no problem being mean. If something terrible happens, they later often don't feel any remorse or guilt. The research tells us that men score significantly higher on all 3 compared to women. And while these 3 personalities are empirically distinct, they do overlap. Clinically, both narcissism and psychopathy are regarded as mental disorders, while Machiavellianism isn't. Whether nature or nurture is responsible for these traits has been somewhat answered by twin studies that show that narcissism and psychopathy have substantial genetic components. Machiavellianism seems to be less prevalent in pairs of twins. However, the environment also matters. a psychopath may not only pass down his genes, but influence a child by being a role model. A Machiavellian father shares with his son not only genetic material, but might also show him all his tricks. The son of a narcissist not only gets his dad's chromosomes, but may also experience his perfectionism. With the big 5 personality traits, also known as Ocean, the 3 correlate either positively or negatively. Narcissists and psychopaths are often open to new ideas and extroverted. Psychopaths and Machiavellians have low conscientiousness. All 3 personality types score low on agreeableness, and psychopaths are hardly neurotic. Whatever happens leaves them cold. An evolutionary explanation for these traits could be sexual strategy. Many of us pursue a slow life, invest in long-term relationships, have a few children, and spend time on parenting. Dark Triad traits may have survived because they look to optimize a fast life. Their ancestors lived in an unpredictable and dangerous world. Because of a shorter life, they sought many sexual partners, spent no time on parenting, and did not invest in human relationships. This may also explain why they strive in competitive environments, such as corporations. Here, a Machiavellian may use charm and insults to manipulate others. The narcissist, his physical appearance, and a psychopath, physical threats. And since they all lack compassion, they often elbow their way to the top, which is maybe why all 3 dark traits are well represented in upper-level management. But there are also downsides. If your mind was programmed to be impulsive, aggressive, and selfish, you are also more likely to abuse drugs, feel excluded, suffer from depression, or end up in jail. This is why we may not only find ways to protect ourselves from these darker minds, but also have empathy for them. After all, maybe they didn't choose to be that way. What about you? Did you inherit some dark triad traits? And if that's the case, and if you are aware of them, did you develop strategies to cope with them? Share your thoughts in the comments below.
And that was Dark Triad. Back in a minute. Thank you. Now, moral politics.
Chapter 16. How can you love your country and hate your government? Versions of strict father morality and conservative politics are hardly confined to the United States. They are common throughout Europe and Asia. But American conservatism has a feature that seems peculiarly American and that often puzzles observers of American politics from other countries. It is the resentment toward government that often borders on, or extends to, hatred. It is not that conservatives hate their country, quite the opposite. They profess the highest order of patriotism. The super-patriots come from their ranks. Nor do they hate their system of government. Conservatives are clear on their allegiance to democracy. Nor do they hate the founders of their government. Their commitment to the founding fathers is unwavering. This is what puzzles foreign observers. How can conservatives love their country, love their system of government, love the founders of their government, but resent and often hate the government itself? This does not happen in most other countries with versions of conservative politics. You won't find it in France or Italy or Spain or Israel or Japan. Why? Let us think about this question in terms of the model presented above. The nation as family metaphor turns this question about the nation into a question about the family. How can someone love their family, love the idea of the family, love their ancestors, but resent and hate their father? This, incidentally, does not imply that every conservative who resents or hates his government necessarily resents or hates his own father. But it does allow us to ask whether the general resentment of government correlates with something about the role of the father in the American strict father model in general. Interestingly enough, There is a peculiar feature of the American strict father model, not found in most foreign models, to which such a resentment might be traced. It is that clause in the American strict father family model which says, "The mature children of the strict father have to sink or swim by themselves. They are on their own and have to prove their responsibility and self-reliance. They have attained, through discipline, authority over themselves. They have to, and are competent to, make their own decisions. They have to protect themselves and their families. They know what is good for them better than their parents, who are distant from them. Good parents do not meddle or interfere in their lives. Any parental meddling or interference is strongly resented." Such a clause is not usually found in strict father models in most other countries, not in France or Spain or Italy or Israel or Japan. If we project this clause back onto the nation, using the nation as family metaphor, here's what it becomes. Mature citizens have to sink or swim by themselves. Citizens are on their own and have to prove their responsibility and self-reliance. They have become the leaders in their own family units or local communities. They have to, and are competent to, make their own decisions. They have to protect themselves and their families or communities. They know what is good for them better than their government, which is distant from them. A good government does not meddle or interfere in their lives. Any governmental meddling or interfering is strongly resented. Here, we find many of the conservative attitudes toward the federal government. It is distant. It doesn't know what's best at the local level. It shouldn't meddle or interfere and is resented if it does. Here we have a remarkable form of explanation. A characteristically American part of the strict father family model corresponds exactly to a characteristically American aspect of conservative politics. What is explained is more than just antipathy to government meddling. It is the principle of local knowledge, that local governments always know better than the distant federal government how to spend their money. This seems like just common sense. Of course, it isn't. There are plenty of cases where the reverse is true. 100 local governments acting separately cannot design large water projects that benefit them all, or perform overall ecosystem protection that requires coordinated action, or plan and carry out a highway system. There are hundreds of things better done at the federal level. What is interesting is that the common sense persists and is so powerful. The level of passionate resentment attached to this principle is also interesting. It runs very deep. The abusive father. It is not uncommon in this country for strict fathers, or mothers, to go too far and become abusive. Child abuse is a major problem in the country, as is child neglect. There is a syndrome of abusive distant fathers, often alcoholics, who are threats to their families, even after the children move away. Children often do have to protect their families from their fathers, as was the case in President Clinton's own family. Neglected children often see their parents as having no legitimate claims to authority over them. You, yourself, may not have had an abusive or neglectful strict father or mother, but if you grew up in a community where parental abuse, neglect, and alcoholism were problems, you may well have acquired such a negative variation of the strict father family model in your conceptual system. There are at least two possibilities. One, your central strict father model may contain an abusive father. Two, your central strict father model may be the ideal model discussed above, but the abusive strict father model may be a negative stereotype to be avoided. The nation as family metaphor projects these two versions of an abusive strict father model onto two forms of possible conservative political views. In the first case, the government, like the abusive father, may be seen as inherently abusive, neglectful, ignorant, dangerous, and potentially out of control. This means that citizens have to protect themselves from their government, that the government may at any time come after them. It produces an anti-government paranoia. In the second case, there is the ideal of a government along ideal strict father lines. The government sets moral standards and keeps them. It is responsible and protective, keeps its distance, doesn't interfere in your life, doesn't require money from you, and thus earns your respect. On the other hand, there is always the specter of the abusive government to be guarded against, just in case. Both of these views occur in the conservative community, and I have known people of both types. The first appears to be common among people who are survivalists or belong to the militia movement. At least those whom I have heard on interviews. Such people love their country as they would their family. They believe in their form of government, just as they believe in the family as an institution. They respect the nation's forefathers, just as they respect their own ancestors. But they resent and often hate and fear their present government. Is this because they come from families or communities which had problems with abusive, neglectful, alcoholic fathers? Do they have a model, either a central model or a negative variation, of a family with an abusive or neglectful strict father? Are such models learned from generation to generation? Are they learned or are they propagated in any of our institutions? In the military? In competitive sports? In schools? In fraternities or other social organizations? I do not know the answer to any of these questions, but they are questions that have to be asked, and I would not be surprised if the answer to some of them were yes. Bigotry and the moral order. Exactly what is and is not in the moral order can vary from person to person. For example, the clause men above women may or may not be present in the moral order hierarchy. If it is, it has the effect of sexism. Many of the clauses in the moral order correspond to forms of bigotry. The racist clause. Since the dominant culture has been white, whites rank above non-whites. The anti-Semitic clause. Since the dominant culture is Christian, Christians rank above Jews. The jingoist clause. Since this is an American culture where people born here have more power and status than immigrants, those born American rank above immigrants. The homophobe clause. Since heterosexuality is dominant in our culture and homosexuals are stereotyped as weak, heterosexuals rank above homosexuals. The super patriot clause. Since America is the dominant country, the only superpower, America ranks above other countries. If your conceptual system contains the moral order metaphor, as it will if you accept strict father morality, then your conceptual system contains the framework into which such clauses could fit, and indeed, historically, those clauses were present in the conceptual framework of many Americans. There was a time when they were all as American as apple pie. Many Americans have since dropped them, though they are still very much present for many others. It is important to bear in mind that these define a moral order. Those higher in the moral order are better and have a moral authority over those lower in the hierarchy. So, for instance, if all these clauses are in your hierarchy, and if you happen to be a heterosexual white Christian American man, you are better than most people in the world. According to the moral order metaphor, a just situation obtains when the moral order hierarchy is met in the world. That is, when men do have moral authority and power over women. When parents do have moral authority and power over their children. When human beings do have moral authority and power over nature, and so on. The bigoted clauses include whites having moral authority and power over non-whites, and so on. In short, the moral order is the conceptual mechanism by which assumptions of superiority, and the moral standing of that superiority, are expressed. We can now suggest an answer to the questions asked above. If conservatism is based on strict father morality, conservatives have the general metaphors of the moral order in their conceptual systems, with at least a couple of clauses, namely, God above human beings above animals and the natural world, adults above children, men above women. The moral order hierarchy used to have all the bigoted clauses in it. Now it has many open slots available for such clauses. Let us take an extreme example. The Ku Klux Klan. The Ku Klux Klan was bigoted in all the above ways. It professed the absolute superiority of white Christian American men. A way of expressing this in terms of the model would be that the KKK versions of the moral order included all of the above clauses. It is important to recall that the Ku Klux Klan viewed itself as a moral organization, as religious and patriotic. What, in the eyes of its members, made it moral was that it upheld the moral order. They wore white to symbolize not only white supremacy, but also morality, according to the common metaphor that morality is light and immorality is darkness. Their burning crosses symbolized morality via the metaphor and the superiority of Christianity in their moral order. They called themselves knights in a royal order, which harked back to the superiority of the nobility over the commoners in the moral order. Back in the days when they rode horses, their riding of a horse symbolized the superiority of man over nature. Today, the superiority of man over nature in the moral order is symbolized by an ability to survive in the wilderness, hence, survivalism. The logic of the moral order included a notion of morality and justice. A situation is moral and just when the moral order is met, and immoral and unjust when it is reversed. The KKK was a vigilante group, one that saw it as a moral act to bring wrongdoers to justice itself. The KKK saw its job as righting wrongs of a particular kind, reversals of the moral order. If an uppity black or Jew or immigrant got too wealthy or powerful or haughty, the moral order was being reversed, and it was the job of the KKK to set it right. The moral order, as they saw it, gave them the moral authority to hold their own courts and mete out their own punishments. The KKK operated according to a bigoted vigilante version of strict father morality. It is no accident that they were political conservatives. I have been speaking of the KKK in the past tense, but in recent years, reports indicate that former KKK members have been joining the militia movement, which is well armed and is sanctioned by political conservatives. Why should such bigots find a natural home with militias? The short answer is this. The militias see their job as upholding the moral order. The moral order is a hierarchy of legitimate authority. Any illegitimate use of governmental authority is thus seen as a reversal of the moral order. As we have seen above, those in the militia movement, like other conservatives, see liberal government policies such as the progressive income tax, gun control, environmental protection, and so on, as interfering and meddling, as the illegitimate intrusion of authority into their lives, in short, as tyranny. The militias are preparing for vigilante action, if needed, to uphold the moral order against what they see as the illegitimate use of government power. Conservative vigilantes, including those in the militia movement, are 3 steps from central conservatives. Here are the steps. Suppose, 1, that the strict father in their model is too strict, that he is abusive. In the nation as family metaphor, that's an abusive, out-of-control, dangerous federal government. A big daddy you have to defend yourself against. Suppose, 2, that instead of just a normal conservative's resentment at the federal government, one has what one sees as justifiable rage against the government's illegitimate use of power. Suppose, 3, that one believes in vigilantism, namely, that one believes that it is moral to be an agent of justice when no one else will do the job. Let the rest of such a model just be that of central conservatism. These 3 differences make vigilante actions seem moral. They could justify acts like the shooting of abortion doctors. These differences might seem like enormous differences from central conservatism, but they are differences of degree, and not necessarily large differences of degree. First, abuse is strictness that has gotten too strict. But how do you draw a line between strict and too strict? Second, continuing deep resentment at the federal government is not that far from rage against the government. Again, they are on the same continuum and not all that far apart. Third, sanctioning vigilantism of a violent sort is on the same continuum as sanctioning violent protests at abortion clinics. Both are performed with a sense of self-righteousness and moral indignation, and are seen as forms of moral action. In short, the models are basically the same, and differences are differences of degree. They are, of course, extremely important differences of degree. Nonetheless, there is a slippery slope from one model to the other, from normal law-abiding conservatism to violent conservative vigilantism. That slippery slope raises a set of questions. Is the conservative vigilante model just a more extreme variant of the normal conservative model? Does perpetuating the normal conservative model also perpetuate the conservative vigilante model? Will stirring up moral outrage at liberals tend to move people from the normal conservative model to the conservative vigilante model? Both liberals and conservatives have clear answers to these questions. Opposite answers. Conservatives say no. Liberals say yes. To liberals, it is just common sense. Every conservative that I know or have heard discussing these issues in the media has disagreed. Part of this may just be a matter of defending one's own territory, but there are other reasons for this disagreement. Liberals, who look for social causes of immoral behavior, have argued that it is often the case that conservative morality and conservative politics themselves can be social causes of immoral behavior. Another social cause can be the whipping up of moral outrage against liberals and the government by conservative talk show hosts proselytizing for the conservative moral position. But from a conservative worldview, this can only be nonsense. To the conservative, immoral behavior is attributable to individual character, not to social causes. What is right and what is wrong are clear, and the question is whether you are morally strong enough to do what's right. It's a matter of character. Conservatives believe that if an extreme conservative commits a crime, say killing people, in the name of vigilante justice, then conservatism itself cannot be held to blame. Nor can those who spew hate over the airwaves. The explanation instead is that that individual had a bad character, that is, a bad moral essence. Either that or he was crazy, craziness being a different kind of moral essence. He was a bad person is not only a sufficient answer, it appears to be a necessary answer, since explanations on the basis of social causes are excluded.
And that was Moral Politics by How Liberals and Conservatives Think by Dr. George Lakoff. Back in a minute. Thank you. This is Ron, your host, the only true conservative in the United States today, bidding adios to all the butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers out there and reminding you that you are not neutral and that the government has no rights.